So this is episode 2 of, what are we going to call this?
We'll figure it out sometime. But this is Ethan and...
I'm Connor, as you know. We got James.
Hey, what's up, guys?
And Ken.
Yo, what's up?
James is our 5th and 6th and college pastor at Cornerstone, and Ken is our junior high pastor at Cornerstone. Yep. So super happy you guys were able to join us, and
glad to be here.
We'll get into it. We're talking about college right now, all about finances in college, because that's important.
Yes.
As seniors in high school.
Yeah. Super important.
Mm-hmm.
Should we, I guess, continue our conversation then?
Yeah, let's do it.
Is that what we're talking about?
We got all the time in the world.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much. I think it's funny that people go through just so much. A lot of people think education is huge, but I don't even think education. I think education is great for the skill set, and we pay so much for education. Some people pay $60,000 a year for education for college and stuff, but they end up with a $40,000 a year job. It just doesn't make any sense. So.
It's funny, I remember growing up, my grandpa would say stuff like, hey, make sure you go to college so you get that little piece of paper. That's all you need is that little piece of paper. If not, you're going to be working at McDonald's.
Yeah.
And I'm like, man, I know people that have that little piece of paper that are still working at McDonald's when they graduate.
Yeah.
And their debt amount is massive.
And what's funny is that because there's this huge push away from the trades, working with their hands, plumbing and AC work, electrical and stuff, and now that's all where the money is. Yeah. And you don't actually need a college degree for that, and so there's a lot of push actually for blue collar jobs because everybody's moving away from that.
Yeah.
Fighting for a $30,000-$40,000 job, and then you have 6-figure jobs that no one wants anymore.
That's true.
Talking about college, where do you guys really study? And going all the way back, where do you guys come from? Like, where were you born? When did you really understand, I want to do ministry? And, how did you get into doing that at, a younger age? Or did you get into it as a younger age?
I guess we call that, a calling for ministry. I kind of ran away from it as much as possible. Mm-hmm. So I guess knowing that, because I'm Chinese, so the biggest thing for me, with my family, it's always I remember a story. My dad would look at me. He's like, "Hey, just so you know, my friend's son, he's gonna be a lawyer." And I'm like, "So are you looking for a new son?"
That's what your parents wanted for you, right?
Yeah, lawyer, doctor, yeah, something
pastor,
like that.
What?
Yeah, pastor is it's. But yeah, it just felt for me in high school, youth ministry really changed my life. The youth pastor really believed in me. In my entire life, I've always wanted to help people. So, in high school, I would have phone number saved on my phone was the suicide hotline or just pregnancy hotline, all these different phones because people would call me up for counseling.
Really?
Yeah.
In high school?
In high school, yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So and that's what I loved. And so eventually, going into college, I tried running away, switched my degrees a few times, and then eventually I'm like, I can't run away from it anymore. Mm-hmm. I think ministry is where I'm called to.
Weren't you prom king in high school and stuff?
Yeah, you gotta toss shut up.
Wait,
yeah, because you were.
I was too.
Yes.
So yeah, we got one of theirs.
Yeah, you can call this prom king.
What happened now, but
podcast.
Prom king podcast.
Episode 2, Prom King podcast.
I guess my story is I'm kind of like that classic pastor's kid. Grew up down south. Was born in Charleston, South Carolina. We moved to Texas. My dad became a pastor, and yeah, I was definitely one of those guys that wasn't really interested in going to ministry. Throughout my dad's ministry and growing up in church, I kind of just played the game a little bit, when I was at church, I acted like I was supposed to and said the right things and dressed the right things, kind of grew up in that traditional background. And then, my senior year of high school, my dad said, hey, you're going to go to Bible college for at least 1 year. And after 1 year, if you decide that's not what you want to do, I don't care. But you're going to at least go and try it.
And he was just going to force you to do it?
There was no option. My dad's old school. He's from Alabama. And so he was like, you're going to do what I say? You're my son. I was like, all right. So, he gave me an option to try to go wherever I wanted. So I picked a school in California and went my first year. And, I kind of excelled my first year. They put me on the leadership team and things like that at college. And but deep down, within my heart, I new. You know, I'd never really made a commitment to Jesus or wasn't called to ministry. Didn't even really know if I was a believer or anything, you know, just because I kind of just played the game a little bit. And then the end of my sophomore, so I went into my sophomore year, got through most of it. Towards the end of my sophomore year, I'm sitting in a homiletics class. It's a class that teaches you how to be a preacher and how to write messages. You actually get to practice doing it. One of my really good friends, Steve, was bringing a message about salvation, and I'm sitting there on the front row getting convicted in this practice class.
Wow.
And I'm like,
So you're in Bible college,
I'm
and
in
you're
Bible
like,
college. I'm on the leadership
Wow.
team. It's my sophomore year of college, and I'm realizing as I sit there, I've never accepted Jesus. Like, personally made that commitment to Jesus. And so I was like, dude, you need to hurry up. In my mind, I was thinking, hurry up and get this message over with, because I need to go talk to the professor after class. And so anyways, I went after class, and, you know, my professor led me to Christ, and he thought that was, you know, kind of interesting. He's like, you want to get saved right now? I was like, I want to get saved right now. So I accepted Jesus and got baptized the next Sunday, and it's actually it's a really cool story of, after that, God began to work on my heart.
Yeah.
Like, really work on my heart about being in ministry. And so I made that commitment, and that's kind of my story. And then, you know, God called me to ministry, and when I was done with college, I went into ministry. So
Yeah.
So how long have you guys both been in ministry? Like, whether it's like youth or wherever you guys ended up?
yeah.
Why don't you start first?
So I have about 12 years of ministry experience. You know, I had the opportunity to help start a church while I was in college. After that story took place, I accepted Jesus and got that calling from Jesus. As soon as I got married, came right out of college, I went right into ministry. So it's been about 12 years, I guess, something like that, 10 to 12 years.
Yeah.
I don't know, I haven't really been like counting, something like that.
Yeah.
So.
For me, I interned for a few ministries, started when I was 18, so that's 15 years ago. But I think full-time ministry since I was maybe 20 or 21, so about 12.
Yeah,
I think 12 years or
something
so.
like that for me as well.
so you started as an intern?
Yeah.
There's hope.
That's what I was telling you.
Internships are the most important thing. I started as an intern. I actually got turned down from an internship when I was in, like my summer of my 8th grade year. I remember I went to like Zorn, and I was like, hey man, I want to intern here. And he was like, all right, go learn some stuff first and then come back.
Yeah.
And then it was
Great.
really that summer I like really knew like, wow, I really like this.
I did two. I did one at the church I was going to. I was in college, and then that was a larger church, and then I did a small church internship as well, smaller church. They're so helpful, man. Like, I know people like sometimes give interns a bad rap, but it is literally the place to learn, and it's hands-on. It's amazing.
Well, and and I think that's the thing is that because I was kind of telling you a little bit that a lot of people think we have hundreds, if not thousands, of people that apply here at Cornerstone. You know, that think, oh, here's my paper. I'm a youth ministry major or whatever. Give me the job.
But they have no experience.
Yeah, no experience.
Yeah.
Or, it's experience is important, and also who you know, and that's the internship helps out so much for that. In the end, I would rather hire someone that has experience than a paper in youth ministry.
Oh, for sure.
So that's why internships are really important.
Yeah.
All right, so I guess we'll just jump right in with. So basically, yesterday we talked with Lee about different topics. So our premise of our class is like it's called 18 questions, and we just talk about different controversial or relevant topics regarding like our day and age, whether it's homosexuality or dating, or this week we're talking about Islam. And yesterday with Lee, we talked about dating and relevancy of the church.
Cool.
And so today with you guys like focusing on like the younger generation, and I think Connor mentioned one of you is also like a college pastor that helps out with college. We wanted to talk about the big two that kind of go along together with transgender and homosexuality. And
The easy subjects, okay.
Yeah, we could have done the one yesterday.
yeah, those are.
Can we do dating again? No, I was kidding.
But so we were talking like obviously this idea of transgenderism and being able to change your identity is like something that's really prevalent within our day and age. And like reading about how public schools have been able to like they're teaching that stuff as like it's concrete fact. Like obviously gender dysphoria is like a major problem, but like they're stating everything as fact and they're teaching their kids and pushing this on their kids. Like, have you ever come into contact with any kid who has like been struggling with this?
Yeah, I think it's not an easy question. I've never, as far as transgender, no. Struggling with like the homosexuality thing, yes. Students and adults, I think it's something that's, like you're saying, very prevalent in the day and age that we live in. I think it's something that's pushed on social media. I think it's something that's pushed in the news, on TV, and I think it's something that the world as a whole is trying to make normal, trying to make it a normal thing, like it should. For example, I just saw a commercial, and I won't say the name of the jeweler, but had like another man kneeling to another man, handing him a ring like he was getting engaged. And so they're definitely trying to make this thing normal when it comes to homosexuality. I don't think transgender has gotten to the point where homosexuality is yet, but I think it is going to eventually probably get there, and we're all going to have to face it. And, what I would say about it is, personally, I feel like the Bible is really clear, but I feel like when we talk to people about these things, that we can't come from an angle of hate. We can't come from an angle of you're just a very terrible person, because I really think that maybe some of these people are just confused. Like maybe something tragic has happened in their life, or maybe they've been abused, or something like that has happened to them to maybe make something in their mind switch. I really think that sometimes it's something having to do with a brain gene, and I think there's a lot of aspects to it, so I think it's almost a case-by-case thing with each person, if that makes sense. I don't know.
Yeah, I love what you're saying. I think there is a society as a whole has definitely a bias towards the culture and the culture in general. I always joke around, because me being Chinese, it's like, isn't it weird that there's a bigger ratio, it seems like, in Hollywood of homosexuals now than Asians that are represented in the media, as in like the world is filled with homosexuals instead of Asians. Like, I want to feel represented. It's just funny. Like, it doesn't. So there is definitely a bias towards that. I mean, definitely it is a touchy subject, because everybody knows someone who's homosexual, and they're great people. Friends, neighbors, maybe a family member, and so it is touchy. And so I guess I come from the aspect of I know what the Bible says, but I can't force that on how other people feel. There's no way that I can go up to someone and say, you're wrong and this is why, especially if they don't believe that. I love what you were talking about a little bit of just a lot of there's typically in that lifestyle, there is typically abuse that's found in their upbringing that goes towards that. And then also there is there are some people who at the age of 2, you're just, man, that person seems to have some homosexual tendencies. And so I think it is a both environmental and biological thing, that biblically we can say, man, God had a plan, but sin messed it all up. I don't know how else.
Yeah.
What are the questions, I guess?
I like what you said about how we can't necessarily go up to people and tell them like, hey, like, you're wrong. Like saying like, it goes along with like the pronoun thing. Like we had this like example in class how like we're sitting in English class, and obviously like at Valley you're not going to run into somebody who's transgender just because of rules and stuff, but like we're sitting in class and a new student comes in and like visibly like this is a man, but he identifies as a woman, and like he asks you to call all these pronouns. Like in our case as like students and like going into college, how do you think we should like face that pronoun issue, especially when it like we don't like personally agree with it? Because
explain to me what you mean by a pronoun issue.
Like calling him a her, like he identifies as a girl and like he wants us to address him as a girl, like when clearly he's a man, and like I think
there's different ways to see this, right? So for me, I think the church has failed to see what our mission is. And I don't know if this is going to be controversial or not, but the church fights so much of this right and wrong, black and white. Like if you're gay, you don't belong in the church, right? And obviously not all churches believe that, but there is this subtlety to that. But what we don't fight for is that, I mean, honestly, for me, if a fight's a fight, I would rather you be gay and know Jesus than to completely believe that's wrong, or to be gay and know Jesus than anything else, than to be gay and not know Jesus, and all that in the end, that's how I kind of function, and even transgender. I'd rather you be transgender and know Jesus than be straight and not know Jesus, however that works.
What it came to me is I really appreciate how David Rublid was in our class that certain day. He was, I can't remember why he was there. If you're listening, David, hello, we miss you. But
what's up, David?
What's up, David? Rublid is the podcast king, so I'm going to let him know that I mentioned him. But David used a phrase that I now use when I'm ever talking about this issue. I find myself on what he would say, and what I'm going to say is the overwhelming grace side, which means like when we had a great example in class where we were asked, you're at a youth group and you're the worship leader, you're like the person leading the band, and it was a really cool moment because I was like, hey, I relate to that. I would understand that. And the question was, there's a lesbian couple that just showed up at your church, and one of them is a concert pianist, and she wants to serve on your band. She wants to be involved in the worship team. Would you let her serve? And it was pretty funny because in the class, I love how we have this class. We get up and you sit on one side if you're like, yes, you go for it. And you sit on this side if you're like, no, that's not okay. I kid you not. We all got up. And it was me on this side with Rublin and Tong and everyone else over here. And it was just a moment where I was like, I think there was like maybe one other person, but it was like all against like Rublin. And I was like, it was pretty funny where it was a moment where I realized I really don't know anything about this issue. So I kind of just like sat back and watched Rublin just talk about it. And he was like, when it comes down to it, a sin is a sin, and it's something that people struggle with. A false misconception is people decide to do that.
Right.
When people say oh, you weren't born that way, you never thought that way, it's just you woke up someday and you were like, I want to be gay.
Right.
And then he asked the question, he's like, did you wake up one day, if you're a guy and you wake up one day, do you think I'm gonna like women?
Yeah.
Did you ever think that? And it was like, no, you didn't. It was like the same thing for someone who's gay. They didn't wake up and say, I'm gonna be gay.
Yeah.
It's just something that they grew up with. And I answered the question yeah, I'm going to let them serve on my worship team because there's people on my worship team that are sinning in tons of ways as well. It's I think it's a big problem in church that we put sins like this, oh, these are sins, and then we have a couple sins that are now being more common in society that aren't an unchurched society, that church just rejects so much, that the issue of homosexuality, transgenderism, stuff like that. They put it away from church. I don't understand how that's okay.
Right.
So that's really where I think about the issue. And
I think so when people hey, be straight first, then be a Christian. Yeah, that's wrong, because it's if we talk about that, I mean, there's such a lot of people think, oh, just stop feeling that way. Yeah, just stop it. No, that just there's so much more to that. You know, there's a to switch like that. It's like asking someone to say, why don't you, as a guy, start liking guys?
Yeah,
that's not possible. Now, can that help? I mean, there are actually theologians, well-known theologians that aren't married. They have gay tendencies. They don't act on it, you know, because it is in the same way like an alcoholic who have that addiction don't act on it, and so they don't sin in that way. Now, some of the things I think for us as pastors, we do see that as a sin. And I think that's clear to understand. Dude, we love them. For us, we believe what Scripture says, and we say that, hey, it's a sin. How that works out with somebody who's gay and a Christian, I don't know. It's just tough. It's tough.
I think the broader picture is that God has called us to love everyone, right? And to have grace with everyone. Some might need a little more love. Some might need a little more grace. It's a process, right? It was a process when we got saved. It was a process of moving forward in our Christian life and in growing in Jesus. It's a process for everybody. For some people, they need the process to be a little bit longer for them. We can't expect them, like you're saying, to change overnight. I think it's important for us to know that as Christians, we are going to have to confront this issue that we're dealing with of homosexuality and transgender. We can't just make it a black and white thing and just set it aside and this is what I believe. I don't care what you think. I'm moving forward. You're wrong. Or you're right. I really do think it is a case-by-case thing. One of my favorite stories, a personal story, is that when I was in Hollywood, California, I had the opportunity to lead a guy to Jesus that was a homosexual. And I'll be honest with you, like just real talk, for me it was a little bit weird at first, because I knew the guy, I'm not a homosexual, obviously, and I knew that he was, but this guy wanted to know Jesus, and I led him to Christ. And the change that happened in his life after he accepted Jesus, it took time, it was a process, but I saw God work through him where, he got a girlfriend and a lot of different things happened in his life and things changed in his life, and that was really cool to see, but I knew it was a God thing and it was a process for him. So I totally agree with what you're saying. People don't just change overnight. I don't think anybody does.
Yeah, and unfortunately nowadays, no one has the patience of getting to know that person first, before pushing their agenda. You know what I mean? It's like, culturally being homosexual is such a different culture. There's the idea of being afraid of telling your parents, of what other people would think, and then just even the abuse that happens after that. The statistics that come with that. And it's unfortunate that as Christians we judge without knowing first, whereas Jesus didn't do that at all. It's woman at the well. He's having this conversation with them, and not avoiding the woman like the rest of everybody else was, at the well because of what she's done, but actually engaging in conversation, getting to know her, and then seeing if she was ready to accept who he was in a sense. So. In salvation, I think of the whole idea of raising your hand and I believe in Jesus, movement is kind of hurtful in a sense, because yes, we build up this moment of saying yes, but I think faith is a journey, and finally getting it is a journey. It's not like, oh yeah, July 1st, 1999 or 2009, whatever. This is when I accepted Jesus. I don't think it's an on and off switch. It's to believe in something or in someone is it's a process. So,
what are you thinking, Ethan?
I just in that personal experience you told about you helping that homosexual to Christ, definitely with it becoming more prevalent in our day and age, we're gonna have to experience it more and more. When we go to college, college campuses are filled with the ideas of homosexuality and transgender being okay. Yeah. How do you think we should go about trying to love on people without it coming across of being rude or just being totally ignorant on our part?
I think you treat them just like you would treat anybody else. They're just people like anybody else, and like you were saying, that's their what we would call sin, right? But there's also people on campus having sex with each other that aren't married, which we believe is a sin as well, right? Which is a sexual sin as well. You don't treat them any other way, or like they're some weirdo, or there's something different about them. You love people across the board, no matter what. That's what Jesus did. Jesus loved people across the board. It didn't matter, what they were doing at the time. He made a lot of religious people upset when he did that, and you might make a lot of religious people upset when you do what we're talking about. But I think that's what Jesus would do. That's what he showed in the scriptures. That was his example. So we don't treat them any different. Mm-hmm. We want them to meet Jesus. We want their lives to be changed just like anybody else.
It's the idea of grace, right? And that's why we got to seek Jesus more, because it's grace and his love that we just don't understand. And his grace doesn't just end with a straight man or a woman. It's anybody. It's a drug abuser. It's a transgender. It's a child abuser. It's all those different things. God wants to see anybody and everybody redeemed. For us as humans, I think we err on the side of, we judge, right? Yeah, you got to change this and change that. But no, God wants everybody to be saved, not transgender or not, homosexual or not. He wants them to be saved,
In that, like, showing love to everybody, I know, like, telling or like calling a trans person by their like pronoun wouldn't necessarily go along the lines of love. But do you think as Christians we should call trans people by like what they feel like? It, for instance, the man that I was talking about, like, he's clearly a man but wants to identify as a woman. Do you think like we should call him a she for the sake of like?
I guess what my question would be, what difference would it make if you did or didn't? Honestly, like, is it if you did honor their request, it's not really hurting you. You know what I mean? If you do it, unless you just like in your heart, like, I just can't do that. Like, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What, can I honor that person? Can I respect that person? Can I love that person? Even though I think this is kind of crazy, like, because I know who you are. Does it hurt to honor them in that way? I don't know.
Yeah, but like on the flip side of that, just like my thought process is if I go ahead and honor their request of like calling them the opposite pronoun, like maybe in their head they're somewhat thinking like, hey, they're like cool with what I'm doing, like they're gonna keep like building me up and going along with me, like they're cool with this.
Mm-hmm.
My thing was, if we do that, are we mainstreaming like? I want to be like delicate with how I say it. I really like Ben Shapiro, how he said it. He had like a discussion with a couple people. I can't remember. It was on a TV show. I don't know what it was, but he said, "I feel like if I'm calling you this, where does it end? Mm-hmm. If you can call a guy who's obviously a man, if he wants to be called a woman, are you mainstreaming delusion? Are you are you just justifying like crazy behavior? Because like obviously we need to have grace, we need to have understanding, because people they might just be, they don't know.
Yeah. Because
a lot of people, and especially in how culture is today, that's a norm. Mm-hmm. Society is trying to push that. That's normal now. Yeah. So people are like, I don't think that's crazy, but as Christians, as people, we know that's not how God designed you to be.
Oh, for sure.
That goes completely against God's plan for you. If God made you a man, He wants you to be a man. That's just what He had designed for you, for your life. And if you change that, you're going against it. So it's like, where does it end? So that's the only question I would have. What if someone came up to me, I think I'm a dog.
Yeah.
Do you need to tell them that you agree with that they're a dog?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's difficult because a name or a pronoun is, for them, is associated with their identity. Yeah. And so I guess that's what you have to weigh is if so your name is Connor, mm-hmm. obviously, and so if I would say, if you were like, no, my name is C now, the letter C, that's it, I'm cool, I want to be C, and for me to go against your request and just continue to call you Connor or K or something else, yeah, despite what you've deliberately said, I want to go by C. That's going to be, for you, you're going to interpret that as I'm disrespecting you and I don't want that friendship with you. right? So I see your point, but I guess it's whether if you're called to help that person along in that journey, if you're willing to go long term in that journey, or if you're willing to say, no, I don't, screw what you say, right? Screw what you say, I'll do what I want. That's not a good foundation for a relationship at all. So, and that's, the gospel's not going to be shown at all. You're done with the gospel at that point, right? So, but
everything should be looked at through the lens of the gospel.
Yeah.
You know, and ultimately, to answer your question, I think you have to come to that decision, that personal decision. It has to be yours, right? As a person. If you don't feel comfortable saying that, and you feel like that if you say, yes, I will call you that pronoun, but in your heart that makes you feel like you're agreeing with them, and you don't feel comfortable with that, then you have to make that decision. Or if you look at it from the other aspect, where you're just going to honor and respect them, maybe even say, you know what, bro, I know you want me to call you this pronoun, I'm going to go ahead and call you that. We both really know that's not what you are, but I'm going to honor and respect you in this moment. I don't think anything would be wrong with that either. It'll just be a decision you have to make, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I like what you said about how, like, if you, like blatantly just, like, don't respect the request, like, you're burning that bridge immediately. There's no way you're going to, like, ever share the gospel. But that's where, like, I think, like, we still have to get used to this as believers, but, like, we need to find that fine line where we, like, can accept and, like, ask questions on, like, how they came to that conclusion of where, like, they where they went to believe, like, they're the opposite gender or whatever, to introduce the gospel and, like, tell them, like, what our position is and, like, why we believe it, instead of just, like, cutting them off right away.
That's the most important thing, is doing it with grace. And I feel like a lot of Christians have shot themselves in the foot on issues like this and other issues, is because they don't have grace. Because, like Ken was saying, it's all black and white. This is what I believe. I'm going to prove to you this is what I believe. I don't care what you believe. I don't want to know what your answer is. And then that shuts people off immediately, dude. Mm-hmm. And I think that's across the board, not just with these two questions that we're answering with you guys, is that as Christians, we got to do a better job.
Yeah.
It's our responsibility.
Yeah, just, like, not even on these two issues, but, like, over the past, like, short 5 years, like, in general, like, America's become this place of, like, we have our own opinions, and this is what we think is right, and then we're just clashing heads with one another. We're not wanting to, like, civilly dialogue, like, one's right, you're wrong, and it just keeps coming back and forth to the point where we can't even have, like, civil dialogue with people who disagree with us without them getting offended.
Right. Yeah.
Sure.
I mean, we got to look at what we're called to do, right? And we're not. The Great Commission isn't to go out and argue with everyone and prove that, hey, this is right, this is right. No, it's he says, go into all nations and make disciples, right? Make disciples. And discipleship is a longer process than arguing. Discipleship is intentional, it's strategic, than, hey, I'm right, okay, let's use this bullhorn, let's use this and that and make everybody mad. That's not discipleship, that's arguing, we're and maybe that's unfortunately why Christianity is where Christianity is in America, is that people believe that standing firm in your faith, but arguing and pushing that being right agenda rather than that discipleship kingdom-mindedness, that's where society is, because as a whole we're known not to love anymore, right? It's to judge, and by the way, we've been saying that for even growing up, right? Well, Christians don't love, they judge.
Yeah.
And even more so now in this PC culture, has that changed? No, it's even worse now.
Yeah. Worse, because now they're on the computer and on the cell
trolls.
phones,
Gosh.
just smashing everybody.
Yeah, exactly.
About everything.
Right.
Multiple things at one time, just going at it, and it's crazy. Have we forgotten as Christians? Here's a good question. the gospel means good news.
Oh yeah, oh, I love that.
You know what I mean? Are we sharing good news with people? Or when people see Christianity or they see us, they're like, oh my goodness, here he comes, or here she comes. It's going to be negative.
Yeah.
Something that I like that Chad Beach said, a quote he said, is that, am I a person that when I come in the room, that I lift people's heads, right? And that's not just amongst Christians. I believe that should be amongst those that don't know Jesus yet.
All right, so I think we covered that topic pretty well. And another thing we talked about with Lee yesterday was this topic of Islam is something we've been studying within class this week, and I think we're going to finish it up by the end of this week. But one of the questions was, like, do you think Islam is a religion to be feared? Like, it is. And, like, as Christians, do you think we should fear Islam? Like, Islam in America is the fastest growing religion, like, and that's not going to stop. Like, do you think that as Christians we should fear, like, Islam itself, not like the religion itself?
What are people afraid of? Define the fear.
Well,
Give me some examples.
As like, so a lot of the things we talked about for like Christians being feared of, like Islam, is that the fact that it is the fastest growing religion, and we talked about how like just my personally, we had to write a blog post about it, and I talked about like I wouldn't necessarily say like I'm fearful of like the religion itself, because the majority of Muslims, like, they do claim that Islam is a peaceful religion, but like they haven't dived deep into the Quran and like really studied it, because there's definitely a lot of violence in the Quran, and I feel like that's also a lot of Christians haven't, like, Christianity in America is very like lukewarm for like the most part, I'd say, and I do think that needs to change. But we're saying like I'm more fearful of the fact that Islam is the fastest growing religion and Christianity isn't.
Okay.
I would say that Christianity has definitely taken a blow. I guess you could say that, right? Maybe some of the things that we've been talking today could be a part of that as well. I've read on Islam some. I haven't done like in-depth studies about it. I know that there are different sections of Islam. So there's those that say they're peaceful, and then you have the fundamental aspect of Islam, and where they believe that you're an infidel if you don't believe like they do, or believe the Quran. And that's where we see a lot of them bring violence to the table when that happens. And so I didn't know. I'd never heard that Islam was the fastest growing religion. So I guess that would, in America, I guess that'd be news to me. But I would say that as far as Christianity is concerned, I think, even though we do hear a lot of negative things about Christianity, that the gospel is still moving forward.
Yeah.
I mean, we probably have the most mega churches in America than we ever have, I believe. That's what I've read. I don't know what the statistics are on that people are still interested in Jesus and in Christianity. So if you're going to ask me, am I scared of Islam, I would say no. You know, I would say no. I know where I am with Jesus. I know where I am. I know what Christianity teaches. I know that I'm victorious through Jesus Christ. I know what my mission is. I know what he's called me to do. So I'm going to move that forward in my life. And I can't look to the right. I can't look to the left. I'm not going to do studies on how Islam is the fastest growing, even if it is, because I'm focused on the mission that God's called me to do. So I don't know if that answers your question. But.
Yeah, I like that a lot. One of the other things we talked about, like, we had like several questions we had to answer, and one of the questions was, it's still regarding Islam, but would you like be concerned if a Muslim ever became president? Like, would you vote for a Muslim who is like a better leader? Like, he said stack the board, because most of our school comes from conservative families. So he said, like, he's a Muslim, but he's conservative and he's pro-life and a bunch of other things like along the line of conservatism. I don't know how you guys lean politically, but like, would you vote for a Muslim president?
Golly. Trying to paint us in a corner right now. I guess when I vote, I think about I have kids. I love this country and everything, and so I always think just long term wise, what that means. And I guess I'll preface it in saying, you know, even the presidents that we've had previously would claim that they're Christian, you know, and what is the definition of Christian nowadays? You know, you said a prayer and you know, junior high camp and that's it, you know, and you don't live that lifestyle. So I guess in that sense, I would rather have, based on their voting record and whatnot, if truly they're conservative in that way and they're leaning towards what I believe is right and biblical for our nation, then yeah, I would think so. Now, especially if the other side of the aisle of their candidate is opposite side of that.
Mm-hmm.
When I vote, whether it's someone that would be a Muslim or claims to be a Christian, the way I vote is I'm going to look at that candidate, I'm going to look at what they stand for, and I'm going to see if I can compare it biblically, right? That's just how I vote. And so whether they're a Muslim or not, I would use the lens of the Bible to help me vote. Now that's really hard, right?
Yeah.
Because whether you're conservative or liberal, I don't care either side. I'm gonna look at it from that lens, but a lot of times you gotta scrutinize like hardcore because there's not a lot there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like, I took the position of like, similar to you. Like I would, if they aligned politically with what I believe, and like, if they were truly a better leader than the opposition, then yes. But my teacher brought up like how a Muslim congresswoman, like there's a rule in the Congress that you couldn't wear any like headgear, like hats or anything, into the Congress building, and she had that flipped because she wanted to wear her hijab or whatever, like the certain sort of headwear is, and like she tweeted it out saying like, if I want to wear it, I'm gonna wear it. And this isn't the last thing that I'm going to flip. And my teacher brought up, like, if we had a Muslim president, like, do you think he would flip the script for, like, a more Muslim agenda? And, like, that's what you'd have to think about. And that's what I find really interesting.
I mean, in the end, who cares? I mean, Christianity survived the Roman Empire and survived all these different things, you know, for us to say, I think it's us as Americans trying to protect Jesus as if he needs protecting.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, do we really need to, like, I mean, Jesus is Jesus no matter what we do or don't do. You know, in the end, ultimately, he won already. So Christianity survived everything throughout the years. Even when we've done stupid things like the Crusades, you know, it still survived. And so, Muslim or not, you know, it's still going to survive because for what we believe is the truth. The truth is always going to win. So, yeah.
I had another whole different topic that I thought would be interesting to talk about. I know that Ethan's got a game today, so if he needs to leave, that's all right. Ethan's a basketball player, one of the athletes.
Right.
I'm not.
And he had his track jacket on. So.
Is that the basketball
right here?
It was a basketball.
Do you have a game today?
No, we have practice.
Oh.
We have devotions and stuff, so.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I know that both of you guys are youth pastors. I would say that both of you are hip, young people.
Oh boy. That's the first time I've heard that, so that's cool.
Well, we talked about social media in class a lot. And social media is just like, I think is such an interesting topic, just how society views social media, how people use social media. How do you guys use social media?
Carefully.
I mean, that's a big responsibility.
Yeah.
Having social media accounts as a pastor, because everybody is looking for something.
Yes.
I honestly believe that. That's why I'm so careful with my social media and what I post, because they're looking for one thing, for you to post that's a negative.
They're looking for something to point you out on.
Yes. And as pastors, you live in a glass house, so we already know that. And so for us to be wise in decisions of what we post is a big responsibility. Me, I post just positive things all the time. I try not to even post just stuff about me all the time, or like selfies and things like that, because I don't want people to think I'm just all about myself all the time. You know, I'll post quotes and pictures of the family, you know, like some stuff when I'm doing MMA training and things like that, I'll post. And so I try to be really careful.
Yeah, it's funny because I thought about that. I finally watched The Shining for the first time.
Oh yeah, I love that movie.
And I decided to live tweet it while watching it for the first time. I'm like, this is gonna haunt me like in 10 years. This pastor watched The Shining. I'm like, and I think that's because even sports stars, because I'm a Cardinals fan, Josh Rosen. They found tweets, you know, and pictures from him in college, even our president from like 10 years ago of what he tweeted, and look, he's going back with what he said and stuff. Yeah, I mean, it's scary where social media is, and it's scary how much people view that as even stronger than a resume, if you will, represents that person.
And everybody's got to understand, social media is not real. People are posting the best about themselves constantly. They're not posting negative things of how their life is terrible.
Yeah.
They're posting the highlights. And so that's what I would encourage even young people to understand, is like, you might see like this person's life just looks amazing and great on social media, and their picture's just perfect, and they're in the perfect pose. Well, it probably took them 15 minutes to edit that picture. They took that picture a couple times, make sure it's just right on point. That's not really real.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so we have to be really careful with that, where people aren't deceived. I think that's another weapon that the enemy uses to deceive people. Put them in a low point in their life.
Well, I was just gonna add on to that. When we took our youth group to Six Flags, I didn't know. I mean, how extreme people take, like for Instagram and pictures and stuff. Like there is literally, I thought there was a photo shoot that was happening. How they were posing. It was literally a girl in the middle of the sidewalk, like 4 people blocking them, and then they were taking like their different flash angles and this and that. I'm like, holy moly! Like what? And it's for an Instagram picture.
Really?
Yeah, it was just insane to me that I don't. It's just crazy.
Well, I learned that when I stepped into college ministry, that it's even like that with the college students, is those, especially the ladies, and I'm not saying anything negative about the ladies at all, but they edit those pictures well.
Oh yeah.
They're like perfect when they go.
And sometimes not well. Sometimes not. Yeah, it is messed up, because they're sometimes on Instagram I'm looking, I'm like, man, your teeth are really white, and that's messed up. You didn't do that to your friend either. Like, it's so messed up.
So regarding social media, do you think like the positives outweigh the negatives? Like obviously, like you can control like who you follow and stuff, but there's also like different. We brought up how Snapchat has that discover page. How I don't know if you both have Snapchat or whatnot, but like you go over on the discover page and there's tons of stuff like that you don't have a choice whether you follow it or not, and like it's some of the stuff is like really weird, and like. And on Instagram has the same thing. Like when you go to search stuff, like there's that discover page. Like even with like the ability to control like who you follow and whatnot, do you think like the positives can outweigh the negatives?
Well, for Snapchat, I think I heard this from you, Ken. What was the original design of Snapchat? It was to be more of like this private. You can't follow it.
Yeah, you send a photo and it disappears.
Yeah.
There's no tracking of that picture or whatever you send video.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, honestly, it was set up to kind of be exclusive and secret.
Right. Well, and it's funny because I forgot when, but Google searched this. Snapchat had a leak, and they actually keep a record of all these pictures and messages and stuff. and went out.
I thought it was so interesting. I was listening to my sister explain to my mom, because my mom asked, and she's like, "What is Snapchat?" My sister's like, "It's where you can take a photo, and then you can just like send it to someone and it'll disappear."
Right.
My mom said, "It disappears," and I go, "No, it doesn't. Nothing
Right.
that touches the internet will ever disappear."
And everybody, like, there's going to be creepers out there too that,
Yep.
you send something, why don't you just take another phone, another camera, and take a picture of that picture too? You know what I mean? So it doesn't notify them of, yeah. But I was going to say for him, it's social media. The idea is great.
Yeah.
Of connecting people socially,
Oh, yeah.
but people use it more selfishly than anything else, of trying to make themselves look good. So one thing that I love is I love Twitter. I love the conversations that happen with Twitter. When I'm at conferences, I can share notes with other pastors, meet them in that way. And when there's a big story that broke, I could find these people live tweeting everything. But when it comes to Instagram, Facebook, some of it's good when you are active in trying to network and social and do that stuff.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think it keeps people more at home on their couch.
Yeah.
Just I guess judging people and,
Yeah.
and being jealous of people than anything else.
I think it's really important for everyone to be accountable with their social media too. For my wife,
Oh, yeah.
I think she has all my passwords, so
Yeah.
she
Yeah.
can log in anytime she wants, check anything she wants.
Yeah.
My phone, she has the password. I have restrictions on certain things.
I've got restrictions on every one of my
I
devices.
got covenant eyes on my phone.
Oh yeah.
And so I have all these restrictions just to keep me safe
Yeah.
because I know what my weaknesses are. I'm a human. We should all be realistic with ourselves,
Yeah.
Yeah.
especially when it comes to social media.
And there's studies out there that Facebook now that because our generation is getting married and we're all that stuff. We didn't grow up in Facebook. Facebook was invented when we were in college in a sense.
Yeah.
We had MySpace.
Yeah, we had MySpace, and then Facebook finally everybody popped up. But Facebook is now being cited as reasons for divorce.
Really?
Not because of the addiction to Facebook, but because of the connection aspect of, oh my goodness, I had this crush on this girl in high school, and she just messaged me. So now I can have this you're sharing passwords with your wife, which is great, but now I can have this private conversation with this girl, and it starts off as innocent,
Yeah.
but
That reconnection.
That old
flame from
yeah.
the past.
Yeah.
No, I could totally get that.
yeah, and it makes
Yeah.
sense, and it's and everybody thinks it's innocent. Oh, we're just catching up, but eventually, yeah, your heart and your mind gets confused, and so protection is always be aware, having that protection, letting your wife or whatever know, because if you have nothing to hide, then great.
Yep.
Yep.
I didn't have any other questions or topics. Do you guys have anything that you want to say?
No, man. Thanks for having us on. I think that was fun. It was a good conversation. So
Yeah.
I like these podcasts.
thanks for giving us the easy topics.
Yeah.
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 Oh, well, I can't remember what tomorrow. Oh, tomorrow, Caleb McMahon's out at Rock Point. You think you got easy topics? You know what we're talking about tomorrow?
What's that?
We're talking about euthanasia and abortion.
It was a tough one. Yeah.
That's funny.
We're getting like
Not funny.
progressively
That's
hard.
not funny.
Yeah.
It's a difficult topic.
We're getting progressively harder as we go. Like
Yeah.
yesterday was dating and church relevancy. Today was homosexuality and transgenderism. Tomorrow's abortion and euthanization. And then, Friday is, I can't remember. But yeah. I really enjoy these podcasts.
Yeah, this
Yeah,
is
it's
fun.
fun, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, talk formally and get it recorded. That's cool.
Yeah. All right.
Podcast.
Thanks for being here again, guys.
Sweet.
Yeah, man.
All right.
Yeah, thanks so much.
Yeah. I'll see you on the next episode.
All right.
All right. All right. All right. All right. All right.